Something stinks in the state of politics. The idea of government by and for the people has become little more than a utopian fantasy. Recently, the Wall Street Journal's Martina Esteves said that citizens are being constantly, chronically, criminally misrepresented by their governments. The belief that governments routinely act in contradiction to the will of the people has long ago left the realm of conspiracy theory. Anish Chopra, who worked in the Obama administration as Chief Technology Officer, writes about a poll which illustrates the American citizenry's declining faith in government. I want to use a simple chalkboard illustration to show the basic theory of representative democracy and why it no longer works the way it is supposed to. The first entity in this diagram represents the voting public in any given defined constituency or electoral riding. They select a representative, presumably based on his or her ability to act as an advocate in the legislative assembly. When all the various representatives have been elected, they meet up in Parliament or Congress or the state or provincial legislature to enact laws and conduct the business of government. It all sounds very simple and logical, and it should work, provided that politicians actually do faithfully represent their constituents. In other words, the whole system relies on the integrity of the politician. And that's where the problem begins, because in almost all representative democracies functioning today, the politician must serve other masters. First, let's consider the so-called invisible hand of capital markets. I use the term capital markets as a simplification, but we are really talking about global corporations, massive industry associations, central banks, and agencies like the World Bank and the World Trade Organization. Of course, capital markets do not have any direct relationship to individual politicians. What they need is large voting blocks of parliamentary members to dominate legislative and executive agendas. Hence the need for political parties. Political parties ensure the kind of uniformity and predictability of government actions necessary to sustain an ever more fragile global economy. Voting citizens recognize that parties dominate governments and elect representatives based on party ideology. Elected representatives who are not members of the ruling party are now powerless. They may have a soapbox to stand on, in that they can voice their opposition in the legislature, but dominant parties dictate which bills become laws and what executive actions the government will take. In other words, unaligned elected representatives are removed from the sphere of influence we know as government power. However, capital markets, through lobbyists, media conglomerates, political action committees, and many other mechanisms too numerous to mention, maintain direct lines of communication with the ruling party. It is obvious, then, that the people's representatives no longer have any real capacity to represent their constituents. Even members of the ruling party must vote in the legislature according to party doctrines or risk expulsion from the inner circle. The party record system is intended to break the hold that parties have over politicians. It will be a social networking system which restores the relationship between the public representative and his or her constituency. This will be achieved in two ways. First, by giving political representatives a highly accurate picture of what their constituents want, and secondly, through ensuring that constituents can verify that their representative speaks and acts in a way that is consistent with their own positions. A more detailed explanation of this proposed system will be released in the Democracy Sucks Manifesto. To find out how to support or participate in the Party Wreckers design project, go to the partyrecords.org website.